So I got to tell you, about 2 weeks ago, or about a month or so ago, gosh, we had I was gone for a week. I was gone for one of the episodes, and it just seemed like there was a party going on. Things got crazy. We had Sylvia Juhasz here. We had we had Zach Barisi, and we had our next guest, Kevin Jones. So I was glad that Jordan and Oz didn't run Kevin off, make him never want to come back. So this is Excel MVP Kevin Jones, author Kevin Jones, entrepreneur Kevin Jones. Kevin, hello.
Hello.
And would you mind, just to kick us off, talk a little bit about one of the best books out there, Don't Fear the Spreadsheets, that you were one of the co-authors for. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Oh, wait. You just said one of the best?
One of. It's out
One
there.
of?
It's out there.
Oh boy, I don't know if I'd call it the best. It's fun, is what it is. It's I don't know if anyone's seen this thing. Maybe some of you have. It's called Don't Fear the Spreadsheet, and the way it came about was Tyler Nash, who's Bill Jellen's editor. She came to him with this basic question. She said, "You got all these books that are really, really good. They're really advanced. I've been editing them. They're great, but I'm a novice, and I have a lot of questions that I'd like to have answered, but they're really simple. Like, how do I format a cell? How do I add a column, or things like that?" And so Bill said, "Well, you know what? Maybe we'll just make a book with those questions. So give us your questions, and then I'll answer them." So she did. She gave him about 120, 130 questions, and then we were at an MVP summit at Microsoft. Tom Erdis, Bill Jelen, and I, and we took a picture together, and then Bill turned around and said, "Hey, how'd you guys like to write a book with me?" And of course, Tom and I jumped at it because Bill's pretty cool, and he's got a lot of books. So we thought, well, what a great way to get into this, and so we did. And it took us a couple of weeks. We got it done, and there it is. It's called Don't Fear the Spreadsheet. It has little stories in there about people who've done some really wacky things with Excel. Like there's one story of somebody who I didn't witness this myself, but Bill says it's absolutely true. This person did not know that you could change the tab names on a spreadsheet, but they did not like the default tab names, and so what they did was they put a piece of tape across the bottom of the screen and wrote on that tape what they wanted the tab names to be. So I thought that was kind of cute. There's a bunch of that stuff in there. What's that?
Was it sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3?
That was what was probably in the workbook. I don't know. Bill saw this. I didn't. He told the story, and it's in the book, along with a bunch of other little ditties. So that was my first venture into books. And then a year later, Zach Barisi and I decided to write a book about tables. It was actually his idea, and he was talking to me about it one day. And I said, I'd like to participate. I can do the VBA section, the automation section, and Zach was excited about that. I think he'd written one book before. Anyway, so we put this together and got it out. I'm more proud of this book because it's a serious book about tables, and it covers tables from A to Z, and it's a great book. So if I were to recommend a book, it would be this one, Excel Tables.
I think that's one of Oz's favorite books right now. He talks about it all the time.
Yeah,
thank you, Oz.
Let's hear about it, Oz.
Because the thing is, when that showed up in Excel, well, man, it had been there a while, and I've talked with the Excel developers about that table icon. Looks like just a plain old grid. It looks pointless. But when I found out about it, to see how I could glue things together and not write all those formulas that I used to write. Put things in tables, have things refer to tables, and then I don't have all these sum ifs everywhere. They can break. No, things got really tight. And then I just think, then I had somebody recently insisted on a solution be made in Google Spreadsheet. And I'm thinking the only way that this thing is going to work is if we can use tables. Otherwise, he's going to have something super delicate in Google. And I said, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do the table. I'm going to import it into Google. And the table was gone. Now, what happens when the table leaves your kitchen? You got to eat on the floor like a dog. And that's not
Okay.
funny. Stop
Not
laughing.
funny. It's not
'Cause
funny.
listen, there's a lot of people with that data on the floor, and they're consuming it like dogs.
I kind of like that.
Get up,
It's a good bumper
stand
sticker.
up, get your face off the linoleum. Eat like a dignified person.
Excel tables. Yeah. There you go. Oh, and
Should
by the
say-
way, I'd like to give an artist a plug. My daughter designed the cover.
Oh,
And,
wow.
She's 21 years old. She lives in Chicago, and I think she did a great job with this. She incorporated, a lot of elements of tables in the artwork, and on the back she put a little pictures of Zach and I back here. So it's kind of cool.
Cool.
right.
So it should say Excel tables : stop eating like a dog instead of a complete guy.
You get your data off the linoleum and start eating like a human being.
Dignified.
Keep it positive.
You gotta be a spreadsheet user with class. So Kevin, you've been doing this for a long time now. So give us a little kind of history on your Excel adventure. How did you start? What really got you into it?
Well, Brad likes to tell a story about how Brad Yunt, and then who's that other guy who wrote It's Not Excel, It's Magic, or something like that.
Bob Ulas?
Yeah, Bob. Great guy, right? He's been an MVP since dinosaurs. So Bob Ullman says, I use the Mac version of Excel 1.0 or something like that, right? Well, I tell Bob, I say, Bob, I was working in the Mac division at Apple on the very first 128K Mac when Microsoft delivered the prototype for Excel and Word. So that's how I got my start with Excel. And I've been following it ever since. I've been using it, and it just got more and more fun. I remember when they came out with multiple sheets, multiple with tab sheets, what do you want to call them, worksheets in a workbook. That was just awesome. And then of course VBA was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I've done things that you wouldn't believe what I've done with Excel over the past, how long has it been? Well, since the mid '80s, I guess. And scraping web pages and automating databases and all this stuff. I mean, I could just about everything. I even helped my daughter cheat at some of these online video games. I interface with the browser and poke and peek and all this stuff and get her lots of points and whatever. So, it's like you can do anything with Excel if you just apply yourself. It's amazing.
So, Kevin, you mentioned Brad Yunt, who was an Excel MVP, who also went to MIT. And along with John Peltier, who also went to MIT, you went to MIT. Our own Oz Du Soleil also has a Boston in his background, going to Harvard. I used to think that Ohio was like ground zero for the Excel world. What's happening up there in Boston? Why do all these people coming into Excel? What's up with that?
Okay, so you're asking me, not Oz?
I'm asking you.
All right. Well,
trust me, Oz is just going to jump in anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I went to MIT. I went to the Sloan School of Management there. So I didn't go. I wasn't in the technical school, but even the Sloan School had an analytical, technical side to it, and I studied user interface design, and we met with Mitch Kapoor and those guys, and because I think there was a Lotus 123 or one of those early spreadsheets was actually founded back in Boston. So I was exposed to a lot of that stuff, even though I was in a business school. But where I really got my earned my stripes, if you will, was I went to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo and got a computer science degree, and then from there I did 3 years at a consulting company, and we did mainframe systems and wrote stuff in COBOL and other languages for mainframes for banks, and that was back in the days when we were moving from punched cards to screens and the basic 24 by 80 dumb terminals, and boy, those were the days. So that's my experience with MIT is business, but with a strong analytical side. So
what do you think, Oz? I mean, is Boston ground zero?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was there for 2 years. I saw all kind of things, saw and experienced all kind of things. But it is interesting to see. Well, you know, the thing is, when we talk to other Excel power users, a lot of us are self-taught. So
yes.
a lot of us are like a bunch of rogues and scalawags, scofflaws that just kind of figured things out because we had to. We're the ones that'll survive the apocalypse.
So we didn't go to MIT. We just clawed our way up. Is that what you're saying, Oz?
That's right.
We weren't those fancy type college boys. We just clawed our way up and figured it out on our own.
But even Kevin is saying it doesn't sound like you went and learned Excel during all of this training.
Nope, I did not.
Right. So then, I'm curious when you say Excel can do anything, and I ask it from the standpoint of where do you see Excel fitting in all this big data talk, where you've got the business users who tend to use Excel, and then they start talking about Tableau or Salesforce.com, and then you have the coders with R and JavaScript. Where is Excel in this? It can do anything.
Well, okay. There's a couple of different facets of Excel. One is it's a spreadsheet, right? And you can graph and chart and analyze, filter, formulas and all that kind of stuff. So in that sense, Excel can't do everything or anything, but it can do a hell of a lot with big data and numbers. And Microsoft over the past 5-6 years, starting with back in what was it, about 2007, 2008, when they came out with Excel 2007 and then 2010, they started looking at really big data, and you got your Power Pivots and Power Query and so on. So that's the data side. When I say Excel can do anything, I'm talking about, hey, it's got VBA behind it, and VBA is really pretty much the same as VB, and then VB is you have access to the Windows SDK. You can access just about anything. You can do anything. It's a little harder to get down to the bits and bytes than if you're using C# or C++. But with VB or VBA, I have, with enough effort, been able to do anything that a C# coder can do with .NET. It just takes longer, but I can scrape web pages, I can control other apps, I can move data around in really strange ways, I can do all kinds of stuff. I can create games, I can create whatever. And sometimes I have actually built applications where Excel, I use the Excel spreadsheet as just a front end. Got a couple of buttons on it. It's just the UI. I don't use the spreadsheet at all. It's just code. It's really convenient. It's all packaged up in a workbook. I send it to somebody, and anybody who has Office installed, Excel, can run it. And that's amazing. So that's when I say Excel can do anything, that's what I really mean.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I get it. Yeah, and I've scraped web pages, and when you start talking about adding VBA in, then Excel can be a pretty scary thing. Pretty exciting.
Yep. Yeah, scary is a good word. And that's so Zach and I, what we're doing is we're creating a new venture to provide services to companies that takes automation. That's why we call ourselves data automation professionals. And what we do is we add the automation behind the workbooks and do all these great things. Now, we're not going to do. We'll probably not get involved in some of the more crazy things that really don't have anything to do with a spreadsheet. It's going to be Excel-centric stuff. It's stuff that really does leverage the Excel's charting and graphing and tables and so on. But that's going to be our focus, is the automation of Excel using VBA.
Mm-hmm. Now, Rick and I were talking about something yesterday, and I wonder if we could talk about this briefly. If Rick can kind of maybe fill in some gaps, but going back to this whole big data world, and Rick was talking about maturity levels of organizations, where maybe, yes, you do have Excel, right? And then you grow and you mature, and then maybe you can have a Salesforce.com or whatever, or a team of analysts. But you go through those phases, and I think some businesses, they try to get too far ahead of themselves. They don't have established processes, but they are ready. We want to be in this big data world, and we're going to spend some money, but then they don't have the proper analysts with the intellectual curiosity, or they don't have the wherewithal to do all the configuration and everything, or even to maintain this stuff when their help is gone. So just wondered, what some of you all might think about that, or what some things that you've seen or concerns you've got.
Well, I can comment to that, because I've done a lot of this stuff, and I've walked into a lot of different kinds of companies that have had a lot of different, basically a mess of data in various stages of being messy. And there's been some doozies. I went into Gap one time. It was about late, when was this? Early 2000s, I think. I went into Gap up here in San Francisco, and they had just done an inventory of their servers, and they had found about 3.5 million spreadsheets on their servers, many of them with automation behind them. And this was because their IT department was about 1,000 strong, riddled with paperwork, and these were all generated by little skunkworks groups around the organization. So that was a mess. They had about 10 different databases, all the way back to some legacy mainframe stuff you can only access with your 24 by 80 green screen. And one of the tests I had there was scraping green screens with Excel. So that was a mess. But Dan, more to the point. So what can we do as Excel experts, if you will, to help companies get past that? And one of the first things we do is we bring in best practices. Best practices start with good design. So start with general design, detailed design, development, a good testing cycle, and so on. I have a lot of ideas about that a lot of details that I won't get into today, but that's one of the things that I think is going to make us successful as consultants, and is bringing best practices in. Another thing you have to watch out for is what's called engineering-centric design. Engineers who build products for them, right? So I can do it, therefore I will. And we see it on microwaves, we see it on VCRs, we see it all over the place. And it's really tough for the consumer, because the consumer's looking at this thing and they don't know what it is, because they're not an engineer. So another good thing we can do is we go in there and we ask good questions. A good consultant asks good questions. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a company and the company said, we want this. And they'll draw something on a whiteboard, and I'll say, well, wait a minute. What are you really trying to solve here? What do you have to work with? What are you trying to solve? What questions are you trying to get answers to? And they'll tell me, and then I'll think, all right, let me think for a little while. And usually I can come up with something a little better, or a lot better. And companies love that, when you can give them the solution that they really can use. So those are just a couple of things to think about. It's not easy. You have to do this a few times to kind of get an idea of what's possible and what the pitfalls are. But those are things those are a couple of the big things I've seen in some of the larger organizations.